I'm Ryan Wangsness. I'm an organic farmer by Decorah, Iowa, and my dad and I farm together. We've got a 500-acre organic crop farm, and then got a 16,000 bird egg layer operation. I've been raising rye, just regular rye that we've been cleaning our own for quite a while, but the hybrid rye seems to have a lot more opportunity for yield. I like to raise the rye because it competes well with the weeds, and you can't raise row crops all the time, so we kind of use it to substitute the corn, and then we use it as part of our rotation. It's really good for, it can be good for soil conservation too, because the soil can be covered over the winter with a cover as opposed to working at fall tillage, and then if you work ground up in the spring, a lot of times there can be heavy rains that can wash more. So I think for soil conservation, it seems like rye is a little better, and it's a little more competitive with the weeds. A lot of times if we raise oats and stuff, it doesn't get quite as good of a jump start on the weeds. And with the chicken operation, we have the opportunity to be able to feed the rye to the chickens. So it fits pretty good into our rotation with our other feed for chickens and things. I started feeding rye to the chickens in 2010. We've just been raising it for seed, and then we had some leftover rye, and we'd feed some to the chickens. But then we started raising more rye, and I've included it up to 10% in the ration for the chickens. I think you have to put an enzyme into the feed when you feed the rye. I think maybe with wheat too, or just certain small grains, I think it helps them digest it. So this particular field had a lot of ragweed pressure in it, and we weren't able, and it was really wet last year, so we weren't able to get into the field to get it cultivated properly. So this field ended up getting away from us, so we ended up just letting the ragweeds grow, and then they got to be about 6 feet tall, and before they went to seed, we went and worked them all down, and then we came back in behind that and we seeded rye, and it seemed to work really good. We seeded the rye September 7th. We seeded some other rye after we combined the corn off, and it just doesn't, it's a lot thinner and not as good or whatever. So the sooner you can get it in makes a big difference, it seems like, for rye and hybrid rye. Pretty much just planted it and it comes. I did frost seed clover into it because I wanted to have something for nitrogen and soil building after the rye's kind of off. We're going to put quite a bit of rye down, probably. It'll maybe be a quarter of our rotation or something like that, I think. We're gonna try and get it in earlier. This time I bought a drill this year, so hopefully I can be in there right after the combine, and I'm gonna try and no-till it in again this year. I liked the way that worked for soil conservation, getting it going right away. Kind of the downside of it with the organic is it makes the field wavier, so you definitely wanna make sure you because we did cultivation on the corn and the soybeans, so you wanna make sure that you're going with the rows so that it doesn't get too bumpy, but that's probably the biggest downside. So we've tried taking it straight, but we seem like we like windrowing it first when we do it. It's easier to get the grain dry, especially with the under canopy of the clover. It's a lot of green to run through the combine if you don't windrow it first. A few weeks ago we had a wind come through that knocked a lot of the corn over in the neighborhood, but this rye stood really good, so pretty happy with that. A lot of times when we'd be raising oats in the past, it would go down, but this rye seemed to stand really well up to the wind. So I was kind of surprised with this field with how well the rye did. It might shade the clover out, but it seems like clover came pretty well too. So it kind of stayed really small until the rye started to turn, and then it started to come pretty good.